This is TWiT.
Elephant in the room time. Apple, well, it's funny because John Prosser was absolutely adamant, Apple rumor monger, there will be new Mac laptops on Monday. He's already shaved his eyebrows. I don't know what else he can shave, but Love to Dream Monday morning before the keynote said no new hardware. So it was like a battle of the rumor mills, and Love to Dream won. There was no new hardware. But then something interesting happened. Apple posted the keynote on YouTube, and among the tags, M1X and MacBook Pro M1X.
Are they messing with us? Are they messing with us?
They're trolling.
So who does those tags, first of all? Do we know? Is it some is it Serenity Caldwell?
Is
it somebody?
It's not Jaws. No, it's not Jaws. We know that for sure.
It's some guy, some peon,
It's
right?
someone in the marketing department. Sure. Right.
Why would they have put those tags in? They must have thought at the time.
They got a new book on SEO and they're just itching to try it out.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that at some point they thought that those products might ship at WWDC or at least be announced. Talking to developers, Pro Macs, the developers love Pro laptops, but you know, not only is it it would have to be a brand new chip. They've only done the M1 for Apple Silicon, so you know, are they ready for that? And there have been so many supply chain constraints across the whole tech industry, and they said specifically that the Mac has been constrained. That, like, is it surprising that perhaps a lot of companies are not able to ship these products when they want? We will never know probably whether they were really planning it. It would have been a good time, but I'm not surprised they didn't have
Stephen
hardware.
Hackett on 6 Colors, your blog,
Yep.
said 65%. He did the math. Very enterprising of him.
Yes.
65% of WWDCs have announced new hardware.
In the last 20 years, and in the last 10, it's about 50-50. So it's not, the people who say there's never hardware at WWDC, that's not accurate. It's sort of a, I'd say these days it's a 50-50 shot.
But what happened? Did somebody... I mean, it's very puzzling to me because this is a pretty well-run company. Somebody forget to send a memo down to the basement that we did. Oh,
to John Pachowski, right? So that BuzzFeed could say, "Don't expect any new hardware."
We didn't release the laptop, so take those tags out. Or they obviously did the tags before the keynote.
Sure.
Right. So, and by the way, the last keynote, Alex Lindsay, who has an eye for this on MacBreak Weekly, said there were 2 jump cut edit points, which I think were something that was snipped out, that they had, it was in, and because they didn't have time to do those fancy transitions they did everywhere else. I didn't think to look for jump cuts in this keynote, but I think it's credible at this point that they had something in there. Remember, this is all pre-recorded, and they cut it out.
15 minutes shorter than 2 hours, Leo. That's the other big conspiracy theory. You didn't go all the way to the end of the hour.
And Apple cuts things at the last minute from its keynotes.
All the time.
All the time. I remember that one Macworld Expo keynote in New York, I want to say 2002, was one of the last ones there. It felt very brief, and it apparently they had cut something at the last second. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were pushing it right to the moment when they thought that they could have the hardware and have a ship date, and then just decided, no, we can't include
It's
that.
very possible. In fact, a lot of people predicted that they would announce it and say, but you won't be able to order it till August or September.
Well, I think it would be entirely possible, right, that what they want to do is they want to have a limited amount of time before the pre-orders and then a limited amount of time before it ships. And they've been playing a little bit more loosely with that and saying, okay, maybe it's 3 weeks and maybe it's 4 weeks after that, but they want a timetable. And I think if you're Apple and you're looking at, even if you're already making them, but you're having supply problems and you realize you're never going to be able to fulfill demand, maybe you just say, well, let's wait. Like, our developer conference gets enough focus, right? Like, literally, Apple doesn't need hardware in order to make people pay attention to them. And they can always call another event and do another event, especially now when they just have to play a video on the internet, and that's all they have to do.
This almost lends itself to that kind of thing.
I will say there was a moment where I think it was Craig Federighi mentioned something and said, we'll have more on this later. Or there was this weird like forward promotion of something, and I thought at the time, oh, well, that's because there's going to be hardware later. And
yeah, we did too. We were sitting there saying, oh boy,
didn't happen.
No.
So much expectational debt.
And honestly, that's the problem I have, because I told a lot of people, do not buy anything. You know, Apple's going to announce something in June.
We always do that. Like, never buy before an Apple. Like, just standing wisdom is no matter what you might want to buy. If it's like a couple weeks from an Apple event, just on the off chance, and especially now, like to your point, they are fine with leading edge silicon because they just bought all of the 5-nanometer process that is, but the trailing edge silicon, all the big stuff like the controller chips and everything that their suppliers are using, those are horribly constrained. And if you can't get like one old chip to make the whole new laptop work, then
could just
you're better
be a little
off
display controller chip.
Or Bluetooth or Thunderbolt or like what did Tim Cook call them? Legacy nodes. The idea, which is a weird term of art that I had not heard before, but it's the idea
90
that
nanometer.
There's old crap that they still put on their computers, and that's the stuff that's in short supply. The stuff that everybody is using. Apple's got it locked down when it's stuff that just Apple is using.
So if we were able to see the top secret Apple roadmap for Apple Silicon, this would be a lot.
We'd be dead now.
We'd be dead.
The one tattooed on Johnny Cerrugi's back, right?
We'd be shredded.
So even he can't see it.
We'd all be locked in Canada.
But it would be perfectly sensible that this would be the time you'd release those kind of. And by the way, I like the name M1X. That makes a lot of sense. That follows the naming convention.
1 year anniversary of the announcement of Apple Silicon to be the perfect time to show off something big and flashy.
Plus, you want to get laptops out right about now. People make buying decisions for the fall, for school.
Right.
So it wasn't at all a leap to think that Apple might announce them here. And it's also, because of chip shortages and COVID, not at all surprising that they couldn't. But now what happens? Does this push the whole roadmap back? Do they announce a lot of stuff in September? They're not going to do anything in July and August, right? That's the dog days of summer. You don't announce anything.
I don't know.
They could, but if they're redesigns, they wouldn't. Like, if they're not redesigns, Apple just drops Macs whenever they feel like it. They've done it in July, they've done it in August, they've done it in November. These are supposed to be redesigns, and they need they want to strut.
Yeah, I think they could do August, and if that's what ends up happening, then great. Or even July, but it's more likely that they'll make it into a fall thing. And remember how many events they did in the fall last year? I mean, we could be headed for something
endless
like that again.
Yeah. So nothing.
3 episodes. It was like a Disney Plus show.
We're probably done for the summer.
I don't know. I mean, if they want to get it out in 3 weeks, they could. I mean, they could do it at any point. I think maybe we overthink this a little bit. Like, literally, if Apple gets enough that they can put it on sale and it's brand new MacBook Pros, people are going to love that. Apple Silicon MacBook Pros, they're going to be really excited. They're going to sell a bunch of them. Nobody's buying the existing MacBook Pros now, right? Because everybody who would buy a Pro laptop knows what's coming, which is Apple Silicon versions of those.
That's another reason why you're in a hurry, isn't it?
Yeah. So on one level, you'd be like, you don't want to do the Osborne effect by pre-announcing it, but like, they kind of did the Osborne effect already by saying they're going to transition away from Intel. So at this point, if you feel confident you could start selling them late July or sometime in August, maybe you do. I don't know.
My nephew is a graphic design artist, just graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design. Congratulations, Will. Very talented.
Congratulations.
Going to his first internship, his first job probably. He needs a new laptop. He's got the 2015 MacBook Pro. I got him when he went into high school. My mom and I were going to buy him this 16-inch. His future employer, or at least intern guy, said, oh, you really want a Radeon 9500 MX? I said, no, you don't, because that means you'd be buying the Intel i9 MacBook 16. Or do you? I think that's dated information. Is it? Can we assume that
what I'm using right now?
Well, and we have plenty of them. There's one across the hall. I gave mine to my son, who's using it for video editing for his TikToks. That is right now the fastest MacBook, I guess. Although with Adobe coming out with native M1 software,
it's the biggest MacBook. We can say it safely. It's the biggest MacBook.
Will the graphics capabilities of the M1X rival that of the discrete graphics of the top-of-the-line MacBook Intel?
Well, keep in mind we don't actually know what it is, right? Like, we don't know exactly what that chip
Wouldn't Apple have to aim for that, though?
But yeah, I think so. I think that they're going to want to have a lot of GPU cores in there. And then the question is just how well does Apple's graphics performance scale when they increase the number of cores, right? If they go from 4 to 8 or 8 to 16, what does that mean? And the rumors are that it could be quite impressive, but it's their first take on it, so we don't really know.
Unknown.
Especially
Adobe
with the WWDC stuff, because they were talking about ray tracing on Apple. You know, in general, they were talking very philosophically about ray tracing and other high-end graphic functions in some of the sessions.
Kind of implying that, don't worry, you're going to be covered. I mean, I don't think they're going to do an eGPU that'll run.
Imagine this on twice the course, 4 times the course.
Right.
Just imagine. Don't think about it too much, but imagine.
Yeah. So these are this. I'm sure Apple didn't want to do this, but there are, as a result of this, there's a whole bunch of unanswered kind of things floating in the air. But I think we're going to have to wait till the fall.